What's going on, everybody? Doc, Average Gamer Guys, back yet again. More Escape from Tarkov action. And in this video, we're going to jump in and we're going to talk impressions of 12.12 now that we've had a couple of days to get this wipe and the patch and everything that has come with it under our belts. So, without further ado, let's jump in. Let's chat. All right, so first things first here, I think my general comments up front are going to be that this has been, so far, a pretty dang good wipe and a pretty dang good patch. I'm very excited for everything that we've got. There is a ton still for me to explore. At this current point, I'm sitting just in the low levels of 20s. I've got quite a few tasks done, which I'm pretty happy about, but a long way to go in addition to our questing. So I've had a chance to mess around with most of the maps. I've had a chance to play some Lighthouse. I've had a chance to basically run through the majority of the rest of the maps with the exception of labs and play at least a couple raids on each. And again, my overall general impressions are very happy. Really happy. I really like the content. I really have liked some of the kind of background changes that we got. And I think there's certainly some discussion for the rest of the changes that we've seen. I kind of want to structure this video, and I don't intend it to be too long because it's really just me chatting with you guys and gals. But I figured I would cover the things I don't like first, and then cover the things that I think are pretty good, and what I'm hopeful for as far as maybe fixes and some stuff moving forward. Things I don't like up front. Originally, I was not a fan of the flea market changes. Right now, that is still to be determined. I shared this comment on the, I think the previous video when we were talking about the patch notes. I also spent some time talking with chat as we streamed. In general, I think the change is good. I think the change is good to give you, basically make it a little bit harder to get some of those more top-end things. The top-end ammo I have no problem with. The majority of the armors I have no problem with. There are a few things on here, though, that I do hope get adjusted. Specifically, quest-related items that can be extremely difficult to find. I am primarily talking about Reap IRs and the Zabrillo armor. Those two things, unless they make some adjustments to spawn rates, I think are going to be really difficult for people to get done. And I think it almost creates too much of a wall in order to complete those tasks. Now, I know that questing and tasking isn't, the utmost importance, but they have shown, I think, in this patch that it is important. It's important to go in and it's important to progress your traders because their items have changed and some things have been moved. In addition to that, a lot of the quests now have item unlocks. So previously, things that were normally just under a level 1 or level 2 or level 3 trader have now been pushed to those levels or kept at those levels, but now locked behind an actual task completion. And it ranges from what I've seen so far from pretty simple things to, better scopes and different types of things. I think the Voodoo is a great instance of that. I'm pretty sure that that is now locked behind a quest completion. So I think it's important that we recognize that the tasks have to be achievable, and to a certain extent, if you have the opportunity to buy certain items and spend money on those things as it relates to that, I think it's important that you have an option to be able to do that. So specifically, a couple of the armors I would like them to take a look at. The Reap IR, I think, is another thing that, while you don't want those flooding the market and everywhere, one, they're rare enough that that doesn't happen. Two, they have to be accessible enough in order to get test drive and the associated quest done in order to continue and be able to progress. And granted, you get the one, but it's pretty hard to get that task completed as it stands. Now, again, some of this I am saying because I haven't seen some of these tasks, so I don't know if there are any task change requirements. Like, I don't know if they've opened that up to be less restrictive to just the Reap IR. Maybe they're going to include the Fleer, which you can craft. If that ends up being the case, then some of what I'm saying right now isn't accurate, but I think time will tell a little bit as we dive further in. So I would like them to take a look at that. Other than that, the flea market changes have felt okay. What is interesting, though, as it relates to the flea market, and one of the other negatives that seems like it is on its adjustment path, has been a change to some of the hideout upgrades, as well as obviously a change in spawn rates for quite a few items. Gas analyzers is like the big meme right now. I actually posted on Twitter a picture as level 17. I finished Sanitary Standards Part 2, so I got all 3 of the gas analyzers I needed. And this was like kind of before a lot of the major changes, at least the majority of them, and them bringing those back to interchange. And I just I said that the flex of this wipe is getting that task complete and not Kappa. And I felt like that for a long time. I still feel like that right now. If I go to my hideout, we have 2 specific things that I think make this pretty challenging. And here's my baseline for this discussion. The hideout, while it should be difficult to put together, while it should be difficult, I need to turn this off, while it should be difficult to get these upgrades going, it should not be impossible, because here's where I see the hideout. The hideout gives what I would say the more casual player the opportunity, even if they don't play a ton, to still have success in this game. So while you want to make it a little bit of a grind and you don't want to make all this stuff just free, if somebody plays and they're consistent and they focus on hideout, they should be able to upgrade this hideout. They should be able to then get the associated perks of getting a Bitcoin farm going. And even if you only get a couple of graphics cards, if you only play a few hours a day and you can log in every day or every other day, you're going to have a revenue stream of money, which is good. In addition to that, it gives more casual players opportunities to craft better ammo, craft some of the things that they need or want to be able to play with that are now not accessible on the flea market. Not necessarily armors, but ammo specifically, really with the workbench. It's going to become really vital in order to get that upgraded and have an option to run some of those top tier ammos. Instead of players that play more consistently, they're going to get to the point where they could probably go farm raiders a little bit, go farm the rogues on Lighthouse, get into labs and play that. So I think the hideout is a really good balancer for folks that play this game a little bit more casually. If they can focus on it, they're going to get some really good perks out of it. The problem I have with some of the adjustments, gas analyzers obviously being one, and that seems like it's come back. I played a ton of interchange on my Scav today and found a heap of them, so be sure to look around, Ollie, all of the tech spawns. But the problem I have with some of the other adjustments is I'm sitting here and you can see I have some pretty good hideout progress for where we're at right now. A lot of things level 2, a couple of things level 3. We're working. I just need like 2 more hoses that this will craft, and lavatory goes to level 3. But I'm sitting here with rest space and heating level 1. The reason being is I cannot find hunter matches. So I don't know what happened. There were obviously some adjustments and some changes to spawn rates. And it feels like they really significantly nerfed, filing cabinets. What's crazy here is these can be found, but people want some insane things, like a lab's armband or Sanitar's key, which is just crazy, right? So I know that these are able and can be found, and there are spawns for them. I just don't think those specific items should be that difficult. The same thing I think we're going to run into, and I don't think this doesn't require it, but rest space level 3 requires green bats. I have literally found 1 green bat so far, and I have run a ton of filing cabinets. They weren't super common in filing cabinets, but they were common enough that if you needed them, you could find them, you could shove them into your container, and you could get out with them. The other problem I have is med station. I am all for adding additional barter items. I think some of the socket wrenches and bolt cutters and all whatever pipe wrenches that they've added, that's all cool. That varies up the loot table. We can do different things with that. Hopefully there are other barters and other crafts as I get the hideout upgraded further that we can do with that. That's fantastic. The really cool thing is to be able to make CMSs. This is fantastic. If you had a hard time finding these, which I don't necessarily think you should if you run some customs and know where to look and hit some med crates, but if you had a hard time finding these, this gives you an option to be able to craft them. Here's the problem I have with this. These are extremely hard to find. and their price reflects it. So they're 320,000 rubles a pop. Now, granted, these prices will eventually go down as we get further into the wipe, as the market gets more flooded. There is also a discussion about now, instead of having 3 offer slots, you only have 2, and it takes a pretty significant amount of money sold to get to that 3rd and that 4th one. With all these changes in consideration, and granted, this is what this wipe is for, and this is what, they're going to continue to tweak and modify things as they get feedback. I would love to see that some of these things aren't as restrictive in order to allow players to be able to find them with some regularity, in addition to being able to upgrade their hideout. I think that's very, very important, and I think that gives options. They did a ton of sweeping changes previously to allow you to craft some things that you need. If you aren't familiar with this, we never used to be able to craft a lot of the things in the hideout. Nixers, for instance, you never used to be able to craft those. Even to a certain extent, weapon parts. Obviously, you couldn't craft a fleer. This one is new. This Bulbex, a cable cutter, new item, is now also craftable. That's great. Takes a long time, but that's great because it gives you an option if you have a hard time finding this, because it is a rarer item spawn. You have an option to craft it. Some of the things we do not, though, and I'm not saying every item in the game needs to be craftable, because I don't believe that. What I do believe, though, is that the items should be accessible. And certain things in certain loot tables right now, gas analyzers are the big thing, but those hunter matches, green bats, and those medical tools just seem to really, really be difficult to find. And I think that's really hindering some progress for some folks, obviously being able to continue to move forward with that. Now, that being said, this may be on purpose. They may be doing this and tweaking these on purpose to keep folks from really further progressing their hideouts or getting much farther into the game. I think that is we've seen that. We've seen the attempt at preserving the quote-unquote early wipe, which I am in favor of for the most part, because I think the fights are more fun. It makes the game a little bit more interesting. However, with that being said, I do think if you put the time in, there should always be an option. And right now, it doesn't feel like a ton of great options to find some of these items. So that's probably my biggest gripe so far of the wipe. There certainly are some bugs and some other things that need to get worked out and have been worked out. I expect that we'll continue to see some patches. We'll continue to see some further updates, technical, server side, all those kinds of things to continue to help. I will say that in my experience, first couple of days was rough, but my matching times have been pretty good. And I have enjoyed Lighthouse and the other maps so far with some of the changes that they've done. Just with, loot spawns and varying things up a little bit, it has been enjoyable. I think the last kind of gripe or complaint that I have is Scav Timers. I will tell you that on a couple of my Lighthouse runs, we haven't been more than maybe 4 or 5 minutes into a raid and have had Scavs spawn in. Now, I understand, and I can certainly see the other side of giving Scavs the time to be able to get in and search for things. I think that's very important. So, a 10-minute timer, that's tough. That can be tough to go and loot and run around and then get to an extract, especially on some of these bigger maps. I am in favor of kind of a 18-ish or so minute timer being kind of the standard time that you get in, and then obviously it can scale within that a couple of minutes. I have a significant problem though with scavs spawning in that early. I've also been doing some, again, scavving on interchange. I'm getting into that map. I think the most time I had was 40 minutes. That to me feels really bad, and it feels really bad from a PMC perspective, because I think the PMC, when you run your PMC, you have all of the risk there, right? Regardless of what you bring in, you have all of the risk. A scav has none. You run your scav, you have no risk outside of losing whatever you happen to maybe spawn in with, which essentially wasn't yours until you get out of it. You run your PMC, everything you bring in is at your risk. The problem I have with that is I think you have to give players, PMCs, the opportunity, one, to engage with each other, two, to go and actually have a little bit of freedom to kill just AI scavs, kill bosses, and try to be successful in that raid with a little bit of a buffer time before player scavs start spawning in. Obviously, VoIP has probably helped that in some instances, and I think we're going to see, obviously, we've seen a ton of additional cooperation. I'm sure if you've been playing, you've had some moments like that. If you have it turned on, I know I have, and it's been absolutely awesome. However, I would love for them to go back and tweak and look at. We had a similar complaint previously about reserve and interchange were the two. I think they need to take a really hard look at that, and when scavs are getting into all of the maps, but specifically Lighthouse, specifically Reserve, and specifically Interchange. Again, my big complaint there is PMCs have to have an opportunity. We were in and actually as a duo fighting some rogues on one of the maps, and actually probably about 10 minutes into the raid, we were actually having some success killing them, starting to move in, and ended up getting killed by a player scav that had spawned in with 35 minutes left on the timer. That feels a little rough. I shouldn't have to fight those rogues and try to infiltrate that compound and then constantly be also scanning my back for somebody to come up behind me and end up killing me. Obviously, I'm a little jaded about that experience, but I think it's a good conversation. And again, somewhere in between there, if you want to give half of the time at least on a map before player scavs spawn in, I think that's at least reasonable and a starting spot. But I would certainly love for them to take a look. Those are my big gripes. Those are my big complaints. I have felt pretty good about inertia and some of the other things. VoIP has been an absolute blast. It's been a lot of fun getting some of the interactions, especially at a player scav side, as well as PMCs. Partnered up with some PMCs and gotten out of some fights and gotten into some funny situations. So it's been really, really interesting, and it's been great. Again, like Lighthouse, it certainly needs some optimization from a frame rate perspective. Still getting a few audio bugs. I think I also have been getting a few quest turn-in bugs that has just made me have to kind of close the game, clear my cache, and come back in. I did have a pretty significant one where I wasn't able to complete a daily task. I got like 3 custom survives in a row, and I just could not turn the task in. So continue working through some of those bugs, but overall my general impressions are that I've really enjoyed it. Some things to still tweak. I hope again some loot changes happen. I've also always been a fan of finding some opportunities to have some more static spawns. I personally think that streamer items should have a static spawn, or at least a couple of spots where they can spawn in, and maybe that is true, but I would like to see some of those changes going forward. Other than that, really been enjoying some of the new guns, been enjoying just all of the content that we've gotten with this, and I am happy to say from what I've seen that this wipe is overwhelmingly very, very positive. I am really excited for the future of Lighthouse with the trader and the bosses as we get more comfortable with that, finding better ways to fight the rogues, and probably I'll be doing a video on that here pretty soon. But I just want to give my overall impressions. With all this being said, I certainly want to hear what your thoughts are. I would love to hear what your thoughts are. I would love to hear what you think so far of Lighthouse and the patch and 12.12. Let me know what your goals are, if you're going to continue to quest, if you're just going to go have some fun, or do a little bit in between. I will tell you that the daily tasks have been super helpful. I am making, again, some really, really solid progress on traders. I just got Jaeger, I think, to level 3. So it's been pretty dang good in that combination. Like I said, pretty good across the board. I'm really happy with my progress so far. Really lost a lot of money today, but other than that, it's been pretty good. So please, in the comments, let me know down below. Love to chat with you. We do stream over on Twitch Fridays and Saturdays, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, and are going to be doing some more during the week as well, so be sure to swing in. Those links are in the description down below if you want to give us a follow. I'd love to chat with you, maybe run some raids and do all that good stuff, because I think this is a great patch. This is a great time to talk about this game, the future of this game, some of the fixes to make this a really, really big momentum push going forward. So like, comment, subscribe. Thank you so much for all the support on the channel. We've got a lot planned for 2022. Escape series, hardcore series, some more challenge series, some more informational videos as well in our Teaching Tarkov series. So if you're interested in any of that, be sure to click around, check out some of that stuff. And with that, I will close this one out. Doc, Average Gamer guys, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next Escape from Tarkov video. Peace.